Have you ever cranked your class-specific tools silly style? If you haven't, you should click off of this video probably. In some shape or form, most people have consumed corn at some point in their life. Have you ever Googled girls kissing naked on your Nintendo DS? I got your ass. Do you read bizarre literature where for some weird reason the male lead is a creep and fingers the female lead? I got your ass. And this is assuming you don't take part in the billion-dollar industry of just regular corn-o films or image sharing, free and paid. Great. So what's my angle here? Why am I absolutely obliterating my monetization to talk about corn in such a little tongue-in-cheek way? Because there are some scary claims about what porn does to the brain. And of course the whole societal implications of corn as a thing. This is an exploratory essay, and I'm taking you on this bizarre journey with me, so buckle the fuck up and prepare to go to hell. So to start, we have to start when porn as a concept did, which probably arose as an idea within the human brain the same time that the human brain arose. I want to make it totally clear that crankin' hog or buzzin' beans is totally natural, brother. It is normal. I'm sure that the caveman had the cuck sheriff. I'm speaking for past lives here. Ropes have always been cool. Where what we're talking about starts to get interesting is, firstly, the widespread usage of photo as a media vessel for folks. See, in the 1860s, Congress decided they hated fun, and they were going to ban using government services, specifically the Postal Service, as a vehicle for pornography, because people were just mailing porn to each other. A lot. Can an American stand up for what's right? No. But goddamn will you see societal contracts in action if you try to get in the way of Yankees and their fun. Porn kept being mailed a lot. And then in 1895 we got this super cool thing called film, where we could literally store visual information, which we're all used to this, but I can't understate the fact that humanity just unlocked storing visual information. It's weird to think about. And then they started doing silly stuff with it. Like in 1896, a year after we gained the godlike ability to store visual information, when the oldest surviving porno, Bedtime for the Bride, translated from French because I refuse to speak that fucking language, was made. It took a year of us having divine abilities at the time of just playing memories to make porn, which says something. The US government tried to stop porn, and emphasis on tried. Stag and blue films, which is the old-timey name for pornos, were shown regardless in sleazy bars, and some stupid old fucks were like, no, you can't do this, and everyone just did it regardless, because a law doesn't matter if everyone agrees that it's stupid and doesn't follow it. The next great leap in porn, however, came in the 1950s with the advent of home cassettes, and home filming became a thing. According to this here Wired article that's probably somewhere on screen right now, over 75% of tapes sold were used to make porn. Because now you could just make your own shit and crank your hog later. Isn't that fucking wonderful? Isn't that an insane concept? Although, there's probably a concerning amount of you whose grandparents have sex tapes out there, and I'm sorry for that, but hopefully you find them, or hopefully they burn forever, depending on your disposition. In the 80s, there was a phone monopoly that was broken up, which meant that there could be, different phone services now, and that made phone porn a thing. And then, at last, shining and gilded and obelisk to put our own selves rotten or pure, the internet came. An indifferent mirror. And you know what we used it for? Crankin' motherfucking hog. At first, the internet was considered to be a superhighway of information. The ethos of the internet when it first arose was that of a utopia. It was going to be the thing that saved humanity. All of our knowledge, right there, where you could just boop, poke it. It'd be great, right? And then human nature entered utopia. And so began the porn. At first, it was stories you could read and download, and then it was images. Video on the internet happened for porn. Pretty much everything that has made the internet groundbreaking probably happened because of porn, and we're going to get into that more later. The time that I'm describing, the super information highway, is around 1995 is when this language was being used. This was a time called the Information Revolution, a tactic by those witnessing the death of an old era and the last millennia to try and understand the new one. Laws were passed to protect this so-called revolution, but maybe it was to protect their own frail ideas, because I mean, if you're a 90-year-old man in Congress in the 90s and you've been cranking your hog to, like, ye old-timey letters with a scratch and sniff bit, you'd probably be fucking pissed that kids these days could just go online, you know? Bill Clinton actually tried to ban porn online, and Bill Clinton could sign whatever laws he wanted. Porn was simply here to stay. Sex.com is the next step, and that's such a stupid fucking name for a website, but hey, it was the late 90s. This was the site that started making the big bucks. Its owner, an egotistical shithead I'm gonna do my best to not name because I think it would be funny, had learned to sell as many ad spots as humanly possible, and the will of the market made him king of porn and porn convention alike. Porn ads pioneered the wretched realm of online advertising. The pop-up ad, the banner ad, and the side-scroll ads all came into use for porn, for Sex.com. The idea of a membership fee for a website, something that is insanely common nowadays, Patreon, please subscribe to my Patreon, I need money, was created by a stripper who learned HTML. No reputable institution would ever admit it, but the internet as a business model was made by porn, and of course the Fed started taxing that instead of banning it, because now it's really, really profitable, and hey, give us some money so we can go blow up more Middle Eastern children, the US government, any time in history ever. Porn is now part of modern culture. Unless you just do not engage with the internet, you are exposed to ideas and thoughts and even scenes from porn on the daily. You come into contact with people who've seen so much porn, such absolute gooners, that they try and act as if it's reality. Porn is omnipresent, because sex sells, and 95 was a porno revolution, not an information revolution, that we're still in the aftermath of. Porn addiction is controversial within the realm of psychology, which is to say, in spite of many people claiming it's real, the leading psychological institutions of the world have all elected to leave porn addiction out of the DSM-5. Now you might think, what the fuck does that mean? Well, it means you can't actually be diagnosed with porn addiction. There is a related hypersexual disorder, which is a compulsive disorder, but treating compulsions and addictions are very different. I'm going to elaborate on this more, so put on your thinking caps and get ready to take notes. Though societally, compulsions and addictions are treated interchangeably, and you will often hear people call a compulsion an addiction, they are in fact very different things. An addiction both physically changes the body, and more importantly, creates a feeling of pleasure, which is different from a compulsion. Compulsions don't physically change the body by making you need something, and instead of causing, pleasure when acted upon, compulsions are caused by anxiety and distress and persist until they are acted upon. Basically meaning that compulsions don't make you feel good, they just make you feel not like you're gonna fucking die for a few moments. Now, this manifests very similarly, but in treatment it is different, because enough time without a substance or a dopamine rush, and an addiction goes away. Compulsions don't end until a thought process itself is changed, which is important to bear in mind as I go ahead and talk about the next big thing. Porn addiction's first and possibly most famous usage in an official sense was during the Ted Bundy case, where the defense tried to claim that his porn addiction fed into his sadism and twisted him, and that's why he killed a bunch of people. Because that's why serial killers do that, it's the porn, they cranked too much hog. Understandably, the question has to be raised, though, does porn twist the minds of those who use it? And the answer is much more complicated than what you might think. This is a topic filled with rhetoric from the adult industry who understandably would like to keep making $3,000 a second, and the religious and moral right-leaning groups of the world who would like to feel they have a modicum of control over anything by intruding upon your life. This is to say that in this story, everything is confusing, there are no good guys, and I'm expecting you to engage with this media accordingly. Put on your big boy pants or go home. Essentially, what I wanted to ask with this video is porn bad for the brain? And diving right into the realm of research for this video, I went about finding reputable journal articles. Typically, articles published on college or national websites are reliable. If it has .org or .gov, you can probably trust it as long as you make sure to do a little bit of digging. But, of course, the little bit of digging is important because key to researching anything is being able to identify opinionated writing. So the first article that I read was written by one Donald L. Hilton, and it was posted by the U.S. government. Hilton does correctly state that there's been an association with different function in addicts relating to strategy and long-term planning. Alright, so addiction can affect your strategy brain. Cool, where are you going with this, Mr. Hilton? He then, with very little proof to porn being an actual addiction, because it's not in the DSM-5, it just literally isn't an addiction, but he goes on an official article and is like, porn addiction is a problem, and he compares it to the British cholera outbreaks. He then detests the DSM-5 for not giving more resources to treat porn addiction, which, bear in mind, the leading psychological institutions of the world all agree doesn't exist, it's not an addiction, but hey, that's okay. The exact language in this article is eyebrow-raising to say the least, so of course I did some digging, and some quick Googling revealed that Donald Hilton is indeed a member of the LDS, more commonly known as Mormons. That's important because the Mormons are a very restrictive culture regarding things like sex, drugs, recreation, and $1 billion of Coca-Cola shares. Essentially, this is one of many instances of research being opinionated, dubious, and the field is littered with just actual propaganda rather than genuine science. But of course, my visceral vision quest was not done yet, and it led me to Your Brain on Porn, an organization that both is riding the nostalgia wave of the 90s Dare ad.
This is Your Brain on Drugs.
Great marketing, guys, and would like to present itself as secular, purely authoritative, except for the crippling fact that its founder, who wrote the defining text of the whole anti-porn movement, was both completely unqualified to write such a book on psychology and deeply religious, contrary to Your Brain on Porn's claims. Regardless, there are studies that are shown on Your Brain on Porn's website that show a support of a correlation to things like porn use escalating to hardcore porn, hardcore porn use having a correlation with erectile dysfunction, sexist views, and relationship dissatisfaction. All of this is presented on the website. One key word to all of this, though, correlation. Cherry picking is a term in the scientific community for when someone uses pieces of evidence, but not whole studies, to prove a point. It's been done before, and it's undermined many people's academic authority. Now, I'm making one thing clear. I have my own issues with the porn industry. I am by no means a shill for them. If I was a shill for big porno, my car would have license plates right now. But it doesn't. So here we are. This being said, it seems very plausible that Your Brain on Porn is cherry-picking. If you go to the research page of the website, you'll find paragraphs upon paragraphs, some claiming that some vast multitude of studies back up their claims, but when you go to visit these studies, they only partially support the claims. Here's the thing, though. You have to go through 2 or 3 Your Brain on Porn web pages to even find the links to these studies. To the average web user, if someone sees a claim and asks for proof and Your Brain on Porn takes them to another extremely opinionated Your Brain on Porn page, not an actual study, it means that few of the people who are looking for context, which is already a really small group of people to begin with, let's be honest, just don't find it. That's not how science works. Come on, let's be fucking for real here. Opinionated these pages are indeed, though. I've forgone naming the founder in an attempt to fairly represent the organization as a whole, not just the guy who made it, but the thing is that he wrote majority of the articles found on the website. Gary Wilson, founder of Your Brain on Porn, was known for being fraudulent in his claims of authoritative sense, extremely hostile toward anyone who dared disagree with him, and any scientists who did disagree with him would be accused of having been bought by Big Porno. And when you try to find evidence for these claims, you get more links to articles that he's written. So again, this is a matter of people going, "Hey man, do you have any proof?" And he just throws shit at them and tells them to read another article that he's written. Gary Wilson appears to have been less of the secular guru he is presented in his foundation, and more of a shrieking fanatic along the lines of Mr. Hilton mentioned earlier. Funny that I should mention Donald Hilton, because he and Gary Wilson both sued actual neuroscientist Dr. Nicole Prouse for calling these men incorrect and combating their outright harmful claims. Okay, so people have some very big feelings about porn in the brain, and this leaves us at square one. Maybe porn does something bad to the brain? Here's the thing about all of this. It's too mired in opinion, and there are not yet enough suitable facts about porn in the brain for a proper conclusion to be made. It would appear that many of these researchers who are looking into this topic are extremely biased, entering the study and do bad science as a result. There's a clear attempt to make morality science and science morality, and that simply will not work. Science is science, and science does not care about right or wrong. Facts simply are, regardless of what you think. Epic Ben Shapiro moment. To get personal here, I don't like porn. It's an awful exploitative industry. It does encourage misogynistic ways of thinking in young men. It is way too normalized. It promotes the drugging and abuse of countless women. Even porn done ethically through OnlyFans isn't ethical. It's a pyramid scheme where thousands of young women are fooled into having a digital John for mere fucking pennies. So what's the solution to the porn conundrum here? There's clearly a problem with it, but what do we do about it? Where's the answer to our great question? Simple. I don't know yet. I don't think anyone does. Not in full. Sure, I can sit here and throw shit at a wall and be like a YouTube Twitch streamer debate bro and act like I know everything, but I don't. And anyone who does is probably foolish. But would any of this shit actually stick? Let's say, for example, tomorrow the corrupt geriatric fucks who run the world all get together and they agree, they convene, and they're like, we're gonna ban porn, we're saving the day. Porn being illegal doesn't stop anything. Sure, some scared suburbanite kids will hold off on jacking off for a little while, but porn remains a billion-dollar industry, and that billion-dollar industry is going to keep being a billion-dollar industry, and now that it's illegal, porn stars are even more at risk for being abused and harmed. The law won't help them, it will just be worse than it is now if you ban it. Any government's attempts to monitor and prevent porn would be invasive and authoritative. My best guess at a solution with porn is this. You can't make morality laws. Sure, you can prevent like the obvious of murder and stealing, but even then, sometimes people have to be killed, sometimes things have to be stolen. But by and large, you keep the essentials backed up. But can you outlaw being a douchebag? Not really. You can't outlaw rudeness or vulgarity or sexuality, because those things are part of the human condition. They're always going to exist, regardless of what any institution tells them. Now, of course, people can be more than rudeness and vulgarity. People can choose to not be douchebags, but that comes from, choosing to do that and having a support network to do that. I could hit you with the maybe if their parents raised their children with a strong moral compass, society would be better. If people developed their own morality, things could be better. Sex work as it exists today is also really shitty. Between porn stars blowing out their brains or being hooked on drugs by literal predators, a lot of the adult film industry is indescribably fucked up. Sure, some of it isn't, and I'm sure that some burglars feel bad. There are little to no societal protections offered to porn stars. They are ashamed and shunned, and their life is a living fucking hell because they had sex on camera for money. Because that means that your life should be a living hell. God bless America. Women who have to resort to selling their bodies to make ends meet are barred from further opportunities within society because of the way that it is structured. They are shunned and shamed. Prostitutes are consistently some of the worst protected people ever, with a much higher risk of literally anything bad happening to them. There's even a solid argument that exists that prostitution as it is in today's society is just bought rape, and I can understand where that argument is coming from. Even in the only state where prostitution is legal, Nevada, prostitutes are discriminated against institutionally. Maybe, if we changed how we treat sex workers societally and legally, things could get better. The porn conundrum wouldn't be scary because people wouldn't be wondering, is this bad for my brain and is this bad for my soul? Maybe. Enough of what could be. Let's talk about what is. We don't know what porn does to the brain, but we can agree societally it isn't good to be in the goon cave for several hours a week. But there's a much more evil thing I learned about while studying for this essay, and it's not about porn at all. So this is about to get weird, bear with me now. People agree that feminism is in the fourth wave. This fourth wave is characterized by an online presence and attempts to make intersectionality a part of the topic of feminism. If you were online from 2012 to 2017, fourth wave feminists were probably the social justice warriors so many losers complained about online. It's not all of fourth wave feminism I have an issue with in the slightest, as fourth wave feminism has made the ideology of equality accessible to pretty much anyone who has a fucking phone. But it has made equally muddying the waters easier for bad actors. The inspiration to this essay, the whole reason that I went on this little research journey, was slideshows on TikTok. These posts were tagged as radical feminism or misandry. These slideshows repeated and exaggerated the claims of bad faith studies for the sake of insulting men. To be clear, men have done many horrible things that merit being insulted, and were these slideshows not repeating bogus far-right claims, I would have never looked twice. But the claim that porn gives you brain damage is dangerous because it's creating a pipeline that young women are walking down right now, and this pipeline starts very easily. Step 1. A young woman understandably becomes jaded with the current state of men. Step 2. This young woman sees a misandric post that says something very conservative dressed up in a liberal coding, like porn is bad, but phrased in a way that sounds like it's degrading men instead of endangering sex workers. 3. This young woman likes, reposts, or repeats said conservative propaganda, but phrased in a cool liberal way. And step 4. Because of the way that algorithms work, the young woman in steps 2 and 3 interacting with said misandric post means that the post will spread, and a new young woman sees this post, or maybe she hears these talking points, and starting at step 2, the cycle repeats again. Wonderful. We now have liberal woman repeating and reposting conservative propaganda in a cute little dress, which should be an issue, but we're also going to get into why this is an issue. We're also going to get back into fourth wave feminism and eventually back to porn, so stay with me and let me put you on game. I mention fourth wave feminism because it is, as with any online-centric ideology, it has a million subgenres that are all like technically fourth wave feminism but believe slightly different things. Think of it like communism or Christianity, alright? One of these subsects of fourth wave feminism is known as radical feminism. Now, if this was the early 2000s, having radical in the name would mean that these people would sell you weed, but this is the 2020s and things are dark, so it just means that they're strange about their opinions on twitter.com. Radfems are for pushing the envelope, which is whatever. I mean, who doesn't love a little envelope pushing from time to time? But the ideology is harsh and edgy. It appeals to angry young women. And one of the beliefs within radical feminism is misandry, the prejudice against men for simply being men. Misandrists will tell you that men are less intelligent than women, that men are just quantifiably more evil than women, that porn causes brain damage. These things, when you hear them, at first seem, genuine. They're things that need to be heard, because a healthy dose of caution in today's society isn't exactly a problem. But misandry isn't a healthy dose of caution, it's just prejudice. It's typecasting men into categories simply for being born with a ball sack, which is, something they can't control. But of course, if men are destined to do things because they are men, we've circled back to gender roles. Gender roles both support the patriarchy as it exists and are an introduction to a much more sinister thing: gender essentialism. Gender essentialism is, a bizarre ideology. Gender essentialists will say peculiar things like, women were made to have kids by the Lord, or men were born to go die in a war. Shit that you read online and you're like, wow, people in real life don't think this. That's what gender essentialism is. They are almost always right-leaning, and they are lastly extremely transphobic, because the concept of transness itself proves that gender essentialism is a silly, stupid belief that shouldn't be taken seriously. In online spaces, you can see radfems devolve into trans-exclusionary radfems, or TERFs, in real time, for the sake of clinging on to misandry, for clinging on to gender roles, for clinging on to the patriarchy in a very strange roundabout way. Now, this does nothing but make them spend more time online being stupid, which isn't that dangerous, and then of course the really dangerous thing, which is endangering transgender people, an already extremely endangered group of people in society regardless. The radfem to TERF pipeline does affect porn as well. See, the radfem and TERF belief regarding porn is that it's ghastly and it should be banned, and historically, that doesn't fucking work. We spent a while earlier in this essay talking about it. People want to crank hog, and no law shall get in the way of that. Regardless, though, progressive voters suddenly swing conservative because they are clinging onto a hateful ideology and now want to ban porn. If porn does get banned, nothing changes, because sex workers tend to be desperate, and huge shocker here, desperate people tend to be the ones to commit crimes for the sake of their own survival. Whoa, intersectionality. Sex workers are already a group of people with basically no protections in America, and they have an insanely disproportionate amount of crimes committed against them. And because America is comically evil, the government has no problem also wrongdoing them. If you ban porn and entirely illegalize the existence of the sex worker, they're still going to exist, but now they are in that much more danger because there is no societal protections offered to them in the slightest. Banning porn becomes less of a matter of, oh, but it makes me uncomfortable, frowny face emoji, and more of a, I want the most murdered group of people in America to get murdered more, very quickly. Now, of course, if we bring intersectionality into it again, let us consider that the sex worker is extremely rarely a white woman from a well-to-do background. That's not sex workers. Sex workers tend to be racial minorities or queer. They tend to be people with no support groups who are so fucked by the system we live in that they literally have to turn themselves into an object that can be bought and sold to generate the capital needed to live. Right? I mention all of this because porn causes brain damage. It's the start of a rabbit hole that leads to, please God, yes, shovel more minorities into the blood machine. This is the thing with internet pipelines, though, is they're not very obvious, and very rarely do people who start down them stop. A lot of people wind up just being really weird because of them. I shouldn't need to tell you why liberal young women becoming conservative weirdos about porn is a horrible thing, especially because many of them don't think they're becoming conservative weirdos. I've had well-intentioned but uninformed friends try to talk to me about the porn conundrum of, hey, porn is a problem and I don't know what to do with it, and I have witnessed them in real time spout the deranged fucking ramblings of Donald L. Hilton. This is dangerous. Obviously, in the face of how horrible the world is these days, this probably isn't the most pressing thing, but it is definitely something that people should be aware of and concerned about. So, what is the solution to the porn conundrum? I don't know. But what I do know is that maybe sliding down a conservative pipeline leading to transphobia and queerphobia and anti-sex work thoughts is not a good thing, and you shouldn't do that. Will there be more studies on porn that are good in the future? Yeah, probably, and I can't wait to learn more about that then. But in the meantime, this is what I got. Thank you so much for coming on this Visceral Vision quest with me. I'm going to go ahead and roll credits to the outro now. Alright, what's up everybody? This video is over for the most part. Now it's just going to be the outro. So if you're new here and you like the video, go ahead and press subscribe. I'm serious. I'm serious. Do it. Press subscribe right now. All right. If you're still here and you haven't already pressed that button, do it. Please. Pretty please. With maybe a little bit of a smooch on top. Anyway, dutiful viewers of the channel will know that firstly my room has been rearranged, which, yes, and secondly, that my hair is now very short, much shorter than it was in the video. I got my first haircut in almost a decade, so let's go. First haircut that wasn't more than a trim, I should say. So, I lied back in July, I think, where I was like, this isn't going to be my only upload this month, and then it was, in fact, my only upload that month. But that's fine, because by the time this video comes out, there should have been, like, at least one video that came before it, so you guys are still getting content. I've been horribly busy over the summer, and life has been not kind, because that's what being 20 was all about for me, baby. But that's fine, because as I record this, it's my birthday now, so I'm 21, no longer a little guy, and hopefully next year is better. So I'm gonna keep making videos, and I'm probably gonna be back sometime before 2 to 3 months from now. That's why I'm taking forever and releasing all the videos in the fall, so there's more stuff coming. That's all of my yammering. Huge thanks to the patrons who are still there. If you'd like to support me more on my YouTube endeavors, you can always check out the Patreon. There's links to it somewhere. Most of all, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one, and until next time, have a great time. Memento Mori.